Alright, so in the last video we made it so that we could upload images, and we also created a symlink so that the images go to our public folder. Now what we're going to do is add the functionality to create an album and add it to the database. So we have an albums table here. So let's go back to our store function in the albums controller, and we're going to get rid of this return path right here. Alright, and then we're going to do, let's say, create album. Okay, so we're going to create a variable called album and set that equal to new album. Alright, actually we haven't created the relationships yet either, so now to be able to use album like this, we just need to bring it in up here. So we'll say use app \album. Alright, but I want to add the relationships between the tables, so we do that through the models. So let's go up here to our app folder and open up album. Okay, so this is the model, and this is going to have a relationship with the photos table. So right here, let's go ahead and say public function photos. Alright, and then we're going to say return this, meaning this class, and there's a function called hasMany, which is going to set up a hasMany relationship. Alright, because an album can have many photos. So we're going to set that up here, and then right here we can just say app/photo. Alright, and that will create the relationship for us. Now we should also put in our fillable fields here as a property, so we're just going to say protected fillable, and let's make that an array. And the fields we want in here are name, description, and cover image. Alright, so that should be all set for that model. Now let's go to the photo model, and for this we need a belongs to relationship because a photo belongs to an album. Alright, so let's first do the fillable field, so protected, and call this fillable, set it to an array, and then the fields we want to be able to fill in the album ID, the description, the photo title, and size. Let me see, is it file size or size? It's just size. Alright, and then let's add the relationship. So right below that, we're going to put in public function album. Alright, and then we're just going to return this, and then this is going to be the belongs to method, which sets a belongs to relationship. And in here we want the model that we're setting the relationship with, which is going to be album. Alright, and that's all you have to do to be able to create a relationship at the application level. Alright, so let's go back down to where we were. So we're creating a new album, and we just want to add our fields. So remember, there's an album name. So album name is going to equal, from the request, the input, and then name. Alright, so it's getting that from the input field. We want to do the same thing with description. Okay, and then we also want the cover image, so that's going to be album cover image, and we're going to set that equal to the file name to store, which is this right here. Alright, and then we're going to save everything, and then we'll do a redirect. So we'll return redirect, And let's go back to /albums, and then we want to say with success, and we want the flash message to just say album created. Alright, so let's go ahead and save that. And then we're going to go to our front end. Make sure you reload this, and let's create an album. We'll say animals, description, we'll just say photos of cool animals, and then we'll choose an image and submit. Okay, we get album created. If we look over here, the image was uploaded. Now let's go to the database and go to albums, and there it is. We have the ID, the name, the description, the cover image. Okay, it's just the image name itself, and the timestamps. Alright, so creating albums is all set. So now what we want to do is pass the album and the photos into the index here, so we can loop through the photos in that album. Alright, but we haven't added the functionality to actually upload photos to an album. But we can go over to our index, album controllers index, and let's create a variable here called albums, and we're going to set this equal to album, and since we have a relationship with the photos table, we can say with photos and then get. Okay, and then we want to pass that along to this view, so we're just going to do with albums and pass in albums. Alright, we'll save that. So if we go to the index page, which is going to be in our views, where is it? Resources, views, albums, index. And we should be able to loop through the albums. So if we were to do for each, and we can pass in here for each albums as album, and in here we could do album name. Alright, let's just try that. Expected end of file. Oops, I forgot the E. Okay, so we get animals. Let's create another album. We'll say black and white. Black and white images. And we'll grab this one here and submit. And now you can see we get the black and white album. So what I want to do is I want to show the cover image along with the title. Alright, and then we can click on that. That'll take us to the actual album page with the photos. Now I want these to be displayed in the grid, which is going to be kind of tough because when you have a grid, you have a div, okay, with the class of row, and then let's say we wanted 3 4-column divs. So we'd have div class, let's say medium 4, and then columns. Alright, so we'd have 3 of these per row because it's a 12-column div. And then when you want to start a new row, you need to have, wrap them in this div class row again. So to loop through these and to have it work like this, we have to add some extra code. We basically have to check to see if it's on the third one. If it is, then the next one should have the row div. Alright, which is a little tough to explain. But what I'll do is I'm going to paste everything in and then just go over it. It's too confusing to try to just type in. Alright, so I'm going to paste it in and go through it. So we have our content section. We're checking to see if there are any albums at all. So we're going to count them, see if it's greater than 0. If we go way down here to this else, this is what is going to happen if there are no albums. It's just going to say no albums to display. Alright, let me make this a little wider for you guys. And I'll also wrap it so you can see everything. Alright. And then inside the if here, we're setting a variable called call count to the total number of albums. We're also setting an iterator as I, and we're setting it to 1 by default. All right, then we're opening a div for albums, and then our first row. Okay, so remember, all the columns go in a row. So this is where we're looping through the albums. All right, and then when we loop through, we're going to test to see if I is equal to call count. So if this is equal to this. If it is, then it's going to go ahead and do the, the medium 4, which is a 4-column div, and that's going to have a title, a link with the image or an image source, and then a link to the actual album page. All right, and then we have an H4 with the album name. Now, if this isn't equal to that, then it's going to go ahead and do this. And the only difference here is that this block has an end class here, okay, which will correctly align it. All right, so once we get through that, we're gonna use this modulus right here. We're gonna say if I modulus 3 is equal to 0. So what this is doing is checking for every 3, okay, because we're having 3 4-column divs. If it is the third, then it's going to add in this extra div with the class of row, okay, because only 3 should be in between each row div. Hopefully that makes sense. It kind of sounds to me like I'm not making too much sense, but hopefully you guys can kind of get what I'm saying. All right, I mean, you don't have to do it like this if you wanted to just have the images like down in a straight line or something like that, but I want a nice grid of albums. So this is what the best solution that I could come up with. All right, so that's basically what's going on here. Let's save it and see what we get. All right, so now you can see, even though we only have 2 images here, it's still leaving room for the next element or the next grid div. All right, so if we create another album, let's see what do I have here. Let's do a city album. And I'll just say photos of cities and submit. There we go. Okay, so the next one we upload should go down here. So that's what this code is allowing us to do. So make sure you copy this exact, or just, copy and paste from the project files. So what we want to do in the next video is take care of, when we click on one of these images, it's going to go to albums / and then the ID. All right, so we want to have, first of all, a list of all the photos in that album, and also a button to create photos and upload them to that album. All right, so that's what we'll get into next.